Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're traveling back in time to the very dawn of the public internet, and we're seeing it all through the eyes of one of its pioneers, Martin "Flatty" Paulson.
So get this, 20 million. In 1993, that was it. That was the entire population of the internet. I mean, today, that would barely fill a single large city. It was a really small, kind of exclusive world, mostly for people at universities and research institutions.
So what was that even like? What could you actually do in a digital world that was so small? Before browsers, before search engines, before pretty much everything we take for granted today.
Well, for a handful of pioneers, the limitations weren't really the point. It was all about the potential. They saw a new frontier opening up, and they just got to work building the future with the tools they had.
Okay, so let's really dive into what this world looked like. Because before the web as we know it, the internet was this text-based landscape of separate and honestly pretty clunky tools.
These were your tools of the trade. If you wanted to send a message, you'd use email. For group discussions, you'd have to navigate something called NetNews. To find a file, you'd use a program called Archie, and then to actually get it, you'd use FTP. Each one had its own separate, kind of obscure interface. There was no unified web you could just click around in. And this quote from our chronicler, Martin "Flatty" Paulson, just hits the nail on the head. He saw all these impressive services in need for a unified and better solution. The technology had all this power, but it was trapped inside these really difficult-to-use systems.
But here's the thing. The hardware was changing fast. A new generation of PCs was coming out with color screens and window-based interfaces. The world was right on the cusp of a revolution, just waiting for a user-friendly way to unlock all that potential.
So how do you solve a problem in this brand new world? Well, you don't wait for the perfect app. You build a solution with the tools you have. And that's exactly what happened in Norway.
Paulson saw this really simple, human need. Norwegians who were living abroad, like he had been, really missed news from home. So he used this simple listserv technology to create Norwaves, a weekly email newsletter with news straight from Norway's Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
And you won't believe this. The lead story in the very first issue of Norwaves was about Erling Kagge reaching the South Pole. Can you just imagine being a Norwegian student somewhere in the US, opening your email and getting this incredible news of national pride delivered right to you? This was connection in action.
And it totally worked. After just 1 year, this simple newsletter had over 1,000 subscribers in more than 25 countries, all connected by this grassroots digital effort.
And here's where you see this amazing blend of old and new tech. The news didn't arrive digitally. No way. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs physically mailed a 3.5-inch floppy disk to Paulson every single week. He would then upload it and distribute it to the whole world online.
Now, this spirit of innovation wasn't just happening in Norway, and it wasn't happening in a vacuum. It was actually part of a global movement to use these new tools for something really profound: education.
From a snowy Segovia, Spain, where Paulson had packed for summer and got hit by a blizzard, all the way to Trondheim, Norway, these pioneers were gathering at conferences. They were sharing techniques, presenting their projects, and literally building the foundations of online learning as we know it today. That teleteaching conference really showed that tiny Norway was an absolute powerhouse in this field. You had projects like Munin, with its electronic classrooms, and Multitorg, the country's first ever web page. It was clear that the nation was punching way above its weight.
But 1993 wasn't just about the technology. It was a year where the digital and the deeply human parts of life collided, often in really stark and sometimes hilarious ways. For instance, when Norway's Minister of Education, Gudmund Hernes, became the first minister to get an email account, his office set up an autoresponder. Well, that autoresponder accidentally created an infinite email loop on a listserv Paulson managed, forcing him to manually log in and, as he put it, harness Hernes.
And then there was this dramatic shift. Later that year, Paulson traveled to Brazil to adopt his daughter. He left the digital frontier and entered a world with no chance of internet access, no email, no connection at all to that online community he was helping to build. Because of hyperinflation, paying their 6-week hotel bill with a credit card would have cost an extra 20%. The solution? Walking through town with a backpack literally full of cash. Just a surreal, low-tech challenge in a year defined by high-tech ambitions. So what all this shows is that 1993 was this incredible year of beginnings, both technological and deeply personal.
And the echoes of that dawn are absolutely still felt today. And the story really comes full circle. Paulson connects the memory of his 2-year-old daughter, Andrea, arriving from Brazil to the cold Oslo snow, with the joy of today, watching his grandsons play in that very same snow. A whole generation of change, both personal and technological. And this leaves us with a final thought. Those pioneers, they took these clunky, separate tools and managed to build a connected world. Today, our tools are infinitely more powerful. So the question is, what world are we building with them now?